Hello everyone, and welcome to Outside, the series. Of course, we're going outside zombies maps, and today we have the final Reich on our plate. It's been a long time since we've had a full-scale zombie map in this series, and I am super excited to see what's out here. We are using a modded client made by Ratpack. The link to his GitHub is in the description, and it is public at the moment, although it's very much so in early access. It does not have a lot of features, but you can use NoClip, you can use God mode, and you can check all of this out for yourself. But before we start going outside of these windows here in Spawn, there's something I already know exists down here underneath the map, and I want to show that to you first. In fact, there's actually a few things down here. First of which is this flashing FX test texture that's just constantly going on and off, and always faces the player as well. It's quite interesting. I've never seen anything like this in Treyarch Zombies so far, although I think there was something like this in WWII Zombies. And my best guess at why this is here, I suppose there's two of them. One, it's completely unused, it's just left over from development. But two, I think it might be a placeholder for the boss, because right above us is pretty much the area where he spawns here in the river. So it very well might be the case that this little FX decal down here is somehow a placeholder for his effects, and it's just stored here under the map waiting to be used. But as I said, this is not the only thing down here. There's also two other objects in the distance. One of them is very similar to something we found outside the map of Gröesten House. It's just a little pole that has dev textures on it. A texture that is very familiar to those who have seen other episodes of Outside. And lastly, we also have this random gas can. And I'll be honest, I don't really remember the Easter egg for this map. It's been a long time since I've played it. I definitely did play it. I believe I beat the boss actually like a couple times. So there might be a gas can in the Easter egg. I don't know. But what's interesting is it's just suspended in air, right? But when I touch it, it suddenly gets physics and falls. And I don't know if we're ever going to see that thing again. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else here underneath the map, so let's go on up back to Spawn and start checking out some window locations. We are here in the village, and I think I'm going to start at the very end of this here. There is some buildings that don't seem to have much of an interior, but then of course there's this one right here that is a window location. And unfortunately, it seems like we cannot walk in here. There is definitely some player clip going on, but it seems like we just got some plates here on the shelves, which weirdly enough are just in stacks of 2. And around the corner here, we got a little area for zombies to spawn, but there's nothing all that special here. But moving on over to our next window location here, it looks pretty much the same. It's got a very similar layout here with a little area around the corner for some zombies to spawn, but the modeling of course is different. And we got a record player here on the desk, which is quite nice. And it does indeed seem like we can just walk on top of these rooms too, which is pretty cool. There is one more left down here, which has like a cutout of the human body. That looks wild. Oh, and this one we can actually walk in too. That's very freeing. Yeah, so I guess this is supposed to be some sort of like medical... Yeah, we got some prosthetics here right by the front door that's just weirdly slammed into a corner. And I guess an old-time wheelchair as well. But this right here is probably the strangest model we've seen so far. It does indeed have internal organs, actually modeled quite well. You can even see the heart. Oh my god. But I did notice while I was walking on top of these shops that there is a second story to this building, and zombies seem to jump here out of the window. If we hop on up in here, this is very barren. There's really not much going on here at all. There's a separate little room here where the zombies spawn. And funny enough, when you walk in here, oh god, that actually scared me. Okay. Was not expecting that zombie to be there. World War II zombies, man. Fucking wild. But anyway, as I was saying, it seems this little area here where the zombies actually spawn is called out by default. I guess it's part of like maybe a different prefab or something. I'm not entirely sure, but cool to see. And now we just got a massive pile up of zombies too. And from back inside of this building, we can get a little bit of an idea at its construction, as well as that there's like a little hidden room here, kind of. Although, it's not exactly much of a room. I don't think there's any walls. But next to this little area right here, if we keep on going further, we can see there is a second part to this. And this is a little bit more like a hidden room here outside the map, but you can see this, of course. Playable space is just right over here. But before we continue on in that direction, there is one more thing to show in Spawn, and that's this building. And as far as I can tell, it does have like 3 floors to it. We're looking at the second floor right now, and if I change the way the lighting is rendered so we can see things quite a bit better, well, it's just this really small little hallway in front of the windows, sort of adding some depth to the map. And I believe the same thing is true for our third floor. It looks pretty much the same, although this one I think zombies actually jump out of. And I think this is something we're going to see a lot in World War II Zombies, but if we get here in the middle, we can see that these rooms line the entire exterior, added for extra depth around the entire thing. It even has them all the way up here in these little, like, steeple windows. Yeah, I don't know what that's called. But lastly, for this building, on the very bottom floor, there is this room, which is dark and has some very moody lighting, and some carcasses hanging from the ceiling. And I believe this is an area where zombies spawn. They come out of this little crack right here, and it's part of the village area that we'll be checking out soon. But finally, stepping out of spawn here, we're gonna go ahead and start in this direction since it's a dead end. And something I did not realize when we covered Gröesten House is that this building right here is in it. Far outside of the map of Gröesten House, we have this little floating city, and that floating city is actually the final Reich. So that means that Gröesten House is, like, out there somewhere. And of course, if we do try and fly ourselves in this direction, well, we're not gonna find it. All we find is a mountain range, some 2D trees, and a frozen river. So although Gröesten House does have this little city in the distance, this little city does not have Gröesten House in the distance. And I do kind of feel like a fool, because I should have known, but I guess that's why it had lights and stuff in here, and I suppose that these are those lights that we saw on Gröesten House. But as far as inside this tower goes, it doesn't seem like there's much. There is a little extra space here through this cable going up to the, well, I guess the top of it. But either way, it is really cool to see it from this perspective. We also have the bridge itself to look at, which does have this little archway, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we can walk down here. Like, most of this is all just covered, well, I guess maybe just under the bridge. Yep, just under the bridge. Okay. Scratch that. So we can walk through most of this. This frozen river just has collision, and we can get a very different perspective on this part of the map. Oh, we fell through the map. Okay, so I guess not all of it has collision. That makes perfect sense. But other than a really cool looking watermill here, to the right, it does have this large staircase leading down to the snow. And I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure zombies spawn down here, and then they climb their way on up and through this window. And it's really weird looking out here now. And in fact, I think right there, if we look closely, that's kind of a mistake. It's just a floating texture. It seems that this terrain patch is not connected to this one properly. Also, the texture of this terrain patch is pretty wild. The lines here are very straight. But of course, this isn't like an insult. I don't think you would ever notice that playing the map. It's just kind of cool to see it now. Now, here at the very back, behind the wall there's a little bit of an out-of-bounds space that has a box in it, but that's not super interesting. But what I do think is interesting is there is yet another one of these little extra ambiance rooms here, fit with a random wooden crate in the corner. I absolutely love when maps do this, and I know WWII Zombies, I think, was probably some of the first ones to have a lot of these little extra rooms, and it's just awesome to see, because of course it's not very common in the older titles. And because we're here, we gotta try it. Ah, you cannot stand on top of the tower, that's unfortunate. It looks like this is the highest point that has collision, although the walls do still have collision, so does that mean... There we go. Yeah, that right there is the view I was looking for. But hopping on down now, we got some other things to look at. Going back towards spawn here a bit, we have this building to check out, which does seem to have quite a bit of interior to it. But on the exterior, there's this random little top, which I'm not sure if this is part of an Easter egg, in all honesty. Like I said before, it's been a while. I assume it is, though, considering you can shoot it down. That's funny, because I definitely don't remember that being the case. But anyway, inside of this building, there is quite a large room. As you saw there, zombies sort of just spawn in the middle of it, and they have multiple areas they can run to get into the map. They have what look like 2 windows they can jump out of, as well as this little jump down here next to the Kugelblitz. Oh man, I just got slapped to death. There is also this little area here behind the counter, and I believe zombies spawn back here as well. It's quite dark, and there's not a lot of modeling, just a random, well, wire, I suppose, going through it. And I guess it's hooked up to this little gramophone, too, which is cool to see. I wonder what that signature is. Really low-res scribbles. And it's also quite strange how there's just these picture frames here on the wall without any paintings in them. And, of course, there's this painting here, this massive one. It's jutting out from the wall, and as far as I can tell, there's nothing inside of it. But that does indeed seem to be pretty much it for this building. It's just these 2 floors here, and as far as, like, this top area goes, well, there's really not much there. And in fact, I guess there's a death barrier, because that just instantly killed me. But now I suppose it's time for us to start our journey here a little bit further away from spawn and take a look at some of these buildings, which I think we're gonna see a lot of the same sort of things going on, with a bunch of extra rooms used for ambiance like this one right here. And strangely enough, it also seems to have like a dev texture on the ground, this just painted grid. Although, as far as this building is concerned, it doesn't seem like there's any other rooms than just that one right there. All these other windows are just boarded up, and there's no extra ambiance rooms added to them. Although the same cannot be said about the building that's right next to it. Which, leading from spawn itself, you can see a ton of these little rooms. Some of them being extremely little, like this one, and other ones having a little bit more to them, and actually have a space that you can walk around in. It really feels like this one in particular was meant to spawn some zombies here around the corner, and they were gonna jump out of one of the windows, but that got scrapped at some point, because obviously all of these windows, well, none of them are open for the zombies to jump through. And it does indeed have another floor above, although, just like that one window below, is pretty small for the most part. There is this back area here, which does have a bit of a space that we could walk in, but that's about it. But down at the bottom level, these buildings do have a couple window locations. One of them is right here, and it seems that we have a box at the very end of it. But as far as modeling is concerned, it seems like this is some sort of shoe store. Got some high heels here in the window, as well as some for kids. And right across from it, there's this big red door, which if we go inside of it, well, there's nothing, unfortunately. Sorry if I got your hopes up. But last but not least, we do have this building to see, which is kind of an interesting area. It feels a lot like this is supposed to be a cafe or something, although I don't really know. But I mean, if they had some tables and chairs out here, man, I definitely would chill, watch the river, and eat a sandwich, you know? But we do have a window location here at the bottom of it, and it does indeed have a little register. I imagine back here behind the counter is where the zombies spawn, and we got some pottery and, oh, there's a gas can. Doesn't seem like it has physics, though, unlike the one that we found underneath the map. But other than that, there's nothing all that special in here, so let's go ahead and hop on out of it and see if there's anything else inside this building. Doesn't seem that there's a second floor, although we can stand on top of the one below us. But before we move on from this area, let's just zoom out a bit and get a look at this docks area from a different perspective. It's quite nice, and honestly, it feels way more open than it does when you're inside the map. I suppose being able to actually walk out here helps a lot with that, and underneath the docks, well, there's not really much going on down here, although we can indeed see that little FX thing in the distance. There's a spooky little fella down there. But I suppose it's time to look above us, because we got this clock tower to check out, and as far as I know, there's definitely going to be an interior in here. We saw this on the Gröesten house map as well, out there in the distance, and we were able to see this, although it was super dark, there was no lighting. It looks like it is the exact same structure. Above that ceiling, there doesn't seem to be anything, though. We can go all the way up through the clock tower, actually. There's no extra interiors, really. Although, we do have collision up here, which is kind of cool, so we could just stand inside this clock tower and jump right out of it. Although, weirdly enough, it is not set to 115. And I suppose that is a different storyline, but it's just weird seeing a clock in Zombies not set to 115 for some reason. But it seems this tower does indeed have more than just its interior. There's also, like, the top of this wall, and it has a very weird electrical line here just going straight across it and up to a building next to it. Definitely seems a bit goofy when you're up here, but of course you would never notice that from down below. And I also noticed that right here is a bit of a ramp, so I suppose zombies do spawn up here, or at very least they were meant to at one point, and then just jump down to the area below us. In fact, let's see if we can get that to happen. I kind of want to see it. I really don't remember that being the case, but sure enough it is. But continuing onward here to the graveyard, we got a little bit to check out here. I think there was something to do with this painting, like there was an Easter egg related to it, although I don't exactly remember.
Well, hello, darling.
Oh, well there you go. It definitely had a voice line related to it. And as far as I can tell, there is actually a little hidden room here, although it's very dark, and there is a door as well at the end of it, but that door does not seem to lead anywhere. It's really cool, though, to see how they did these, like, cobwebs around the window. It's literally just, like, wrapped around the space. And of course, from outside, with the lighting rendered properly, it looks completely natural. I suppose it is itself, like, a terrain patch that's just molded to float around these windows and walls. And besides this little ramp, this building does have a couple little out-of-bounds spaces here, although very dark, so let's go ahead and turn on full bright. And we can see, just like other buildings, they're basically just extra areas added for ambiance, although it does sort of seem like the zombies could jump out some of these locations, especially this one right here, like they could just squeeze out of that little window. And we also have this graveyard outside the map. And it does look like there's writing on some of these headstones, although it's not exactly legible. And as far as I can tell, they are repeats of each other. There's like 3 or 4 different types of gravestones, and that's about it. Also, the writing is, I'm guessing, German. I was gonna say broken German, but I mean quite literally, like the writing itself is broken. But we do indeed have collision out here, which is really cool to see. So we can walk among the gravestones. I wonder how far it actually goes. I kind of just want to start walking out of the distance here. We'll just see when we fall through the map, because I'm sure this terrain patch at one point will just give way. But it doesn't seem like it's going to anytime soon. Oh my god, okay, this is probably the end, huh? There is a huge amount of space out here, man. And if we turn off full bright, get into the moody lighting again, everything's very blue as well. As far as this here down below, we have collision here too, man. We can walk through all of this. For some reason, this is like my favorite thing to do when exploring outside of maps, and obviously it's completely pointless and there's nothing out here, man. It's just barren terrain, but I absolutely love it. It's very calming. It's kind of like cathartic in a way. But what we do indeed have out here, although it doesn't seem like it has much collision, is this little raised area with these extra houses. And of course, all of this is sort of just used as extra ambiance, but we can look at them. They don't seem to have any interiors to them. Although I will say the models are actually quite well done, except you can see some of these windows. It seems the developers like have an extra texture for the lights being on inside of them, and they're just floating off of the windows of the models, which is kind of cool to see. I imagine they just paint these on there afterwards, and some of them don't line up correctly, probably because the model itself has been iterated upon and has changed since the location of these little window textures were added. Pretty funny to see that, but there is a whole bunch of these buildings. And then beyond it, there's even more of them just floating out above nothing. There's also this extra castle here, which if we go on up inside of it, well, it doesn't have collision, unfortunately. And weirdly enough, turning on full bright again, it actually doesn't change anything out here. So I guess the lighting is just not being rendered this far out, or perhaps it's pre-rendered or something? I really don't know. Maybe one of you guys can let me know down in the comment section how that works, but unfortunately, full bright will not give us a better look at this thing, but I don't think there's any little hidden details all the way up here, other than the fact that a roof texture is being used for the floor. I think that would go unnoticed by most. There's also these golden spikes, though, on top, which is quite impressive, I have to say. Man, imagine accidentally sitting on one of those. Oh, God. And behind this, inside the mountain, there is a random triangle. You'll love to see it. Nevertheless, though, I do think this is really cool, so I'm gonna take a sip of the coffee. Because, of course, I have my coffee with me here this morning. I hope wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, you're enjoying yourself. Because I do love myself some World War II Zombies. I said it before, I really haven't played this game in a long time, but when the game came out, I did enjoy the Zombies mode quite a bit. I bought all the DLC for this game, and although I didn't enjoy the DLC as much as the base map, they were pretty good. I think what does it for me, though, is the overall vibe of World War II Zombies. It's this dark, horrific kind of game, and I feel like it's something that's kind of lost from Treyarch Zombies, at least in modern times. And the zombie models themselves are pretty cool as well. I think the boss types being these like Frankenstein-like things put together by a crazy German scientist underground, I mean, it's a really good theme. So as far as gameplay goes, the game is quite a bit of fun. Of course, this was the first game that had armor though, and that was very controversial at the time. I'm pretty sure there is no Juggernaut, and instead, this is what we got. Nevertheless, though, I really enjoyed this game. I'm glad it existed, and if you guys are enjoying this video, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton. Of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. But without further ado, let's check out some more of this map. These buildings do indeed wrap themselves around all the way back to playable space, and we have a ton more to check out in here. I suppose starting with this building, which is outside the map, it does have a lot of those little hidden rooms like we've seen before. And finally, coming on back into the map here, we do have some window locations, such as this one, a very empty room with no modeling. You can see it here without the lighting change. It's just dark and I guess a bit ominous. And there's another one right across the way in this building as well, which looks very much so the same, except more wooden, I suppose. And it's kind of cool to see that the entirety of this building was used, because when we just pop out of the side here, we'll realize that that is the exterior of the building. Lengthwise, though, the same can't be said. There's a bunch of empty, unused space here, except for down below us, where there is another window location. This one with a couch and a whole bunch of blood on the ground, as well as a random deer. What does this plaque say? RIP no scope? That 100% says no scope. What does it say below it? I'm not sure what that last bit says there. It says something and then G, I think. Can't really tell, but that definitely says rest in peace no scope, so this deer's definitely seen some things. But anyways, inside this window location there's some more stuff, like this teddy bear sitting in a wheelchair and looking at some bottles of liquor. There is indeed a fireplace though. It has a little bit of an interior, but it's much smaller than you would expect a fireplace to be, I suppose. And, I don't know, just out of curiosity, does the chimney continue upward? I don't think it does. It seems like the chimney is false. It's not real. Although there is an extra area up here at the very top. This building is somewhat destroyed, and there's an extra space here, although there's nothing inside of it. And, unfortunately, I died again. Damn it. And heading on up through the toy shop here.
Looks like we found Santa's workshop.
There's, quite a bit of weird details inside of here, just inside the actual map itself. But there's also this back room that you can't normally go into. And if we turn on full bright, well, there's unfortunately nothing back here. I was really hoping there would be. I suppose normally it's so dark you can't tell it's just an empty room. It really feels like there's something back there normally. There are these notes on the wall, which it does look like they actually say something. Although it's sort of hard to tell what. And anything behind door number 1? No, actually, there isn't even enough room there in the building for there to be a door. But there is this little place that the zombies, I imagine, crawl out of. And, oh my god, this is actually quite a bit larger than you would expect it to be. It's funny how that is. This is way bigger than the player would probably think. But yet this room right here is actually way smaller than the player would think. But continuing onward, we have this little jump down here in front of the toy shop, and we've made it to the front here of the vault, I suppose. Here in the village square, there is a lot of ambient rooms to see, although they're pretty much all the same, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if it's worth going one by one and showing them all, but we'll give a little bit of a fly through just to give an idea of how many there are. There's this one here, which is kind of cool. There's actually a ramp. Oh, okay. Just spit me out of the building, won't you? But as I was saying, there's actually a ramp here for this one, for the zombies to, I suppose, walk on up and out of the building, which is cool to see. Usually this is done with a clip brush, but I suppose someone forgot to change the texture here. But as far as actual window locations go, we got one right here, which seems to be another storefront. If we turn off our full bright and get that moody nature back in. Oh, there's an invisible wall right here. Unfortunate. Is there anything on the other side of this wall? Like, why is this here? I don't understand. Also, why is this one area of the building cut off from the rest of it? There's some weird stuff going on here, man. Not exactly sure how that all works, but it's there. And as far as behind the counter, well, I don't think there's anything too crazy going on here. I mean, the counter itself is just a chunk of wood. Not exactly well detailed. But moving on out of here, we have another window location just right around the corner. And inside of this one, it seems like it's some sort of furniture shop, maybe? We got some tables just scattered about. Although, I suppose that doesn't necessarily mean that they're for sale. But zombies probably spawn here in the corner and come on out at the window at ya. Continuing on from that, we have another window location over here. We did already check out this one that's right across the way with the meat there hanging from the ceiling. But as far as this one goes, let's see what's inside of it. We got a nice little table with the light on and a beautiful painting, actually. Very, very attractive paintings in this game, I have to say. Although the amount of, like, frames on the wall that don't have paintings inside of them is kind of strange. I suppose it also makes sense, right? Because wouldn't people steal that artwork? I would imagine it's probably worth some money. And oh my god, there's a staircase. Doesn't seem like the staircase actually leads anywhere, though, unfortunately. I wonder if the zombies spawn back here. They probably do, and this is where they come through and get to the window. Oh, the die post! I love the die post. Oh, it's this... Oh, okay. Okay, well, this is the die post. It's where no scope is. Poor guy. But I'm pretty sure that is it for the above ground section of this map. We've covered all of the buildings. There unfortunately isn't really anything hidden inside of them, although there is a ton of these little extra ambiance rooms. Some of them, I suppose, being much cooler than the rest of them, though. But now it's time to go down inside the bunker and see what's in there. And oh my god, did it just push me out? It totally just pushes you out of the door. The door has some sort of energy inside of it that just repels you. I would imagine that is so when it opens. Oh my god. Where did you come from, dude? Holy shit. That genuinely scared me. But anyway, as I was saying, I would imagine that is so if there's a player in front of it, it pushes them out of the way. And it seems like in no clip, it even pushes me out of the way. But anyway, I suppose, let me see if we can turn on power without turning any of those valves. We can. Nice. And now we can actually open the bunker door too, which is cool for 2,500 points. And unfortunately now zombies are spawning here. That probably wasn't the smartest idea, actually. What's down here? I kind of forget, right? Isn't normally you're supposed to come up through here, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you fall through right here. Or something like that, right? Doesn't this break through and you jump down? Oh man, it's been a while since I've played this map, dude. World War II Zombies was great though. Maybe I should come back here and play it a bit sometime. But anyways, down here there are a few window locations, so I suppose let's go ahead and check them out. Oh, okay. Definitely a barrier inside of it, and oh my god, it's bright. Let's just, let's turn on full bright so it's not as bright, which is usually not what full bright's used for. And another one. It's pretty much the exact same thing, sort of just carved into the rock here with some cement walls. Oh, look at that, dude. So right here inside of the tunnel, there's another area that zombies spawn, and it's literally just a little brick cube down here below. I suppose the zombies spawn down here and they jump up instead of drop down. It's very cool to see. It's definitely a different way of doing things. I don't think I've seen this before in Zombies. Oh my god, he fell down here. But let's go ahead and continue further into this tunnel, and I imagine most of these window locations are pretty much copies of each other. Unfortunately, in areas like this, I guess there's not really a need to make extra ones, and oh my god, the blood is spilling into this one quite a bit. That looks wild. But yeah, as far as the modeling of these windows go, they're pretty much all the same. Oh my, what are you? I forgot that was there. Huh. I don't actually remember getting that. I imagine that is one of the things that you need for the Easter egg or the wonder weapon. I don't remember this map very well, man. It's crazy because it's really not that long ago, but yeah, there's something you have to do in here. Yeah, I remember, and you get like trapped and then a bunch of zombies come or something, and then this is the Pack-a-Punch, right? This is Pack-a-Punch right here. Oh my god, I can use it. And then I think these become usable, right? Can't you like fly through those? Kind of like the sewer system on Zetsubo. And there's also these areas here outside the map. If we go ahead and fly on into them, it seems like we got some big old barrels here with, unfortunately, nothing inside of them, but still, this area is quite cool. And normally, well, it's very dark. You can't really see in here too well. There's a floating box, which is interesting. I feel like you could definitely see that from inside the map. There's also a painting.
I just need to figure out how to get these pieces out of this shit-stained village and into the right hands.
Yeah, there's definitely an Easter egg with these paintings, right? I'm pretty sure there is. Maybe it has something to do with this floating box with, well, nothing inside of it, but the box is floating, man, so it's gotta be magical. But that is not the only out-of-bounds space. There is another one that is very similar to it right next to it, and this one actually has like a little med kit. But unfortunately, it seems that there is nothing inside of any of these boxes, not like I would expect there to be, but we can go all the way to the back wall, see this little cellar area in its entirety. Also, there's something really weird going on with the lighting here. I think it's actually like fog related, perhaps. Like they added a bunch of fog inside of these little areas outside the map, and because I'm going inside them, the lighting is acting very strange in them. But then again, I have very little experience with map devs, so I'm not sure if that's the case, but it definitely feels like it. Like there's some volumetric fog stuff going on. And just like that door right there, I don't remember if this had something behind it, but it seems like it does. This definitely looks openable. Although what is behind it is not much, actually. But it's definitely modeled, so I imagine it opens? I'm not entirely sure. And I believe this door here, if we continue further, just leads on out to those docks that we were at earlier. So we've kind of covered the sewer section here now, so moving on into the morgue. We got another painting, actually, which there doesn't seem to be a voice line for this one. This area is very ominous, I gotta be honest. There's this area here outside the map, the Aufzug, and we can hop on into here with, oh my god, the lighting in here. It's a little bit flashy, so if you have problems with that, you might want to close your eyes, but I think this is where the zombies spawn back here, and I guess they come out past here through this little brush that's not connected to the wall and has an opening inside of it with some rebar. That's actually really cool. And then finally to the window here on my right, which is awesome to see. It seems to be a very complicated window location in a way, right? Like it's huge for what it does. It's literally just so that you can see the zombies with that yellow light behind them. And I feel like that is a great touch to a map like this. Also, while we're at it, since we have Fulbright on, we can take a look at some of these cooling boards and inside of here, and it seems they are definitely modeled, although not the best. I will say, I mean, this reminds me a lot of the World War II ones from Verrückt. There's also this little hole in the ground, and oh my god, it's just a pool of blood. You can see this without the Fulbright on, and it just looks like a black box, but you can hear the slushing below. And with Fulbright on, well, things look quite different. Again, though, I think this is actually a really cool way to deal with these little jump ups, because even in Black Ops 4, these little jump ups had like no room at all below them. They were just a pit to nowhere. But here in World War II Zombies, we can see that that's definitely not the case. They actually made something down there. But oh my god, that looks really strange with the lighting rendered this way. There it is looking normal, and here it is looking very shiny, actually. Continuing onward through the morgue, we got a couple more window locations here. This one seems pretty straightforward. And it seems like even more of these little jump-up zombie spawn locations. We have another window location with a very German sign in front of it. If we hop into here, this one has a ton of modeling in it. There's a bunch of infirmary bread. Oh my god. Are you okay? Does that sound normally play when you play the game? I've never heard that sound before. But anyway, as I was saying, there's a bunch of infirmary beds here, which is pretty cool to see. It seems like they are the same model, but still, nevertheless, awesome. As well as some IVs here, and oh my god, that's just gonna keep playing, isn't it? Dude, I'm sorry for what happened to you. It seems like you were like almost cut in half or something. There's also these. I don't know what this is. It looks like an iron lung, but scaled down and really made small. Maybe this is supposed to like hold oxygen or something. I don't know. It does indeed have a valve though. Oh my god, that's just gonna keep playing. That is horrific. Let's get out of here. I don't want to be here. Actually, well, Fulbright, anything? It's green. Didn't know it was green. Okay, let's go. Yeah, this is when we start to get into the more creepy window locations, I think. Because there's this area here outside the map with all of these bodies just hanging in a freezer. Yeah, so I guess the people here in World War II Zombies were also trying to resurrect the dead. And weirdly enough, there isn't anything here around the corner. I'm guessing, I don't think zombies spawn back here. I think this is just for ambiance. There is no window location connected to that, although there is this door here, which is where I thought that was going to lead, but it seems not. This is actually a separate location entirely. And with a little bit of Fulbright, we can see how shiny the walls are. Yeah, I gotta say, this is like probably one of my more favorite areas of the map. Some of this reminds me of Derice, like with the vials here on the shelf and stuff, and then you turn around and you start getting reminded of like Verrückt from World at War. And you have these zombies here on the desks that are just being put together and made into undead soldiers, I suppose. And then behind us, well, we got this thing, which I forget what this is for. You definitely put something in here in the Easter egg. I think you gotta like guide some guy around the map, right? And then fill this with his soul or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe this is where he comes from. I don't know. But anyway, inside of here, we got a floating head, as well as some arms and a whole bunch of goo. I imagine this is essentially what makes the zombies, right? And spits them out somehow. I forget exactly how this works, but there's something that's on this rail. That I remember. There's something on this rail, and it follows this rail line. Nevertheless, though, it is really cool to be actually inside of here. It seems the body parts are on their own animation cycle, and all of this, like, guts and blood is just spinning around separately. And when you step back a bit and you get, like, above the area so that nothing's rendering except those effects, it looks even stranger. But we do indeed have more stuff to see in this room. There's another window location over here with a whole bunch of stuff. Oh my god, there's a rabbit here? Dude, I don't know. Some of the modeling, man, I don't think I've ever, like, sat around and looked at the modeling of this map, but it's fantastic, dude. It really is cool. But here's the window location that I was talking about. It's quite large. It's actually very large. It wraps itself all the way around. It seems like it includes multiple areas the zombies can come out at. Maybe actually 3 of them. And as far as the modeling is concerned, it seems like a bunch of glass boxes and stuff, and I imagine this is where the organs are supposed to go. Maybe this is like an organ harvesting section of the map. I'm not entirely sure. They definitely seem to be obsessed with anatomy. But unlike these that actually have the organs in them, the ones outside the map don't seem to have anything inside them. And of course, if we turn off our Fulbright, we can see this area the way that it's meant to be seen, very dark and ominous. But there is this area back here, which is quite cool. And I imagine back here is probably where the zombies spawn, and then they get to decide where they come out at. I don't remember if in the World War II storyline we actually get to meet the doctor that did all this, like in a cutscene or something, but it almost trumps what Richtofen did in the Treyarch storyline. It's kind of crazy. There is more window locations here, though. This one is quite small and kind of looks like a bathroom. I suppose there's some lockers here and an area here around the corner for the zombies to spawn. But we do also have this little area, which is definitely a bathroom, has a sink and what I imagine are supposed to be mirrors. Okay, yeah, they're definitely mirrors. When you turn off Fulbright, it becomes very apparent. But other than that, the room is quite small. But it looks like that is it for that section of the map. We have made it to the main command room. This area that connects directly to the vault door. And I suppose starting out here, there are a couple window locations, although I don't think there's anything interesting in these ones. Yeah, they're pretty straightforward. Suppose we'll hit the mystery box, though. Might as well, right? SDK 9mm. Nice. Not sure what was up with that mystery box hit, but I feel like it only showed like 3 weapons for me to get. But as far as the window locations in here, I think they're a bit more interesting, such as this one, which actually has a little ramp going down to a door. I imagine there's nothing on the other side of the door. There is not. Oh my god, it's bright. But still though, this is quite cool. It's very bunker-esque. Like this feels like one of those little areas you're able to shoot through and out of the bunker. And of course, we got some lockers here, but there's nothing inside of them. In fact, they don't even have collision. And here around the corner is a nice little safe space for the zombies to spawn out of sight. There's also like a bunch of area that's over here that you can't normally get to, but it's kind of cluttered with a bunch of models, and there isn't anything hidden back here that I can tell, at least. Although there is a door, but again, nothing behind this one. It is pretty cool, though, to see how much modeling actually goes into just a little area of the map like this. And I feel like most people probably just skip over this, but there is even a door back here in a little hidden room, and I think zombies do spawn back here, and this is a little spot where they jump on down at. But lastly, for this room, we have another window location on the opposite side, and it looks sort of like the one that is on the other side of it. Although, there's no ramp, it's just a big drop down to where the door is. Oh, there's also this, too, just above the room, I suppose. I really like when the zombies don't spawn inside of you, right? Like, they come out of the walls, and it feels like you're just being surrounded by them. I've always liked that aesthetic that World War II had, and I feel like the earlier Treyarch games all had them as well, all the way up through, like, Black Ops 2. And, oh my god, we can see how this works as well. It seems that there is, like, this black texture separating the 2 areas, so you can't actually see all the way up through it, but it does connect with the area down below where this comes up through. And I don't remember exactly how this works, but I know this opens up at some point during the Easter egg. I think when you do the Wonder Weapons stuff here, right? When you gotta build it, you gotta get the parts and turn it all on. And I mean, I suppose we might as well check this area out too. Its window locations are very mine-like. In fact, it reminds me a lot of Shangri-La. That's what I'm thinking of, with the mine cart going down the middle and the very, well, rock-like window locations. But finally, we reach the Emperor's Chamber. And inside of here, I actually don't know if there are window locations. I imagine up here in like these little areas is where the zombies spawn, which seem to just be like carved into the rock. There's only like a couple of them though, and their interiors are not very well detailed. I think World War II Zombies got away with a lot, since without Fulbright, of course, it's just really dark in there. Ooh, but there's this slit in the wall. Oh my god, I didn't even know this was here. That's wild. And of course, we have the Emperor himself, which inside of his statue, well, I mean, we're inside of him. Oh my god, he has a large sword, doesn't he? But that seems to be just about it for this area. There's nothing underneath, and there's nothing above it either. Although from the outside, when you're like clipping into the ceiling like this, you really get this feeling that this is some ancient thing buried underneath the ground. You have the stone, and then it's just packed on by a whole bunch of dirt. But heading on further into the map here, we have just a little bit more to check out, and that is in this direction. This is the laboratory, and if we go ahead and turn off our Fulbright and walk through here, we do have some window locations to check out, but they're very dark. And like I said before, World War II gets away with not really modeling any of these. It's literally just a concrete room. The darkness hides a whole lot of sins, but then there's things like this right next to it, which is very well detailed, with the zombies on a conveyor belt hung by their feet, and this yellow light, as well as some smoke effects coming out of the wall here behind them. We also have these canisters with, oh my god, his face is moving, I didn't realize that. But he is literally just a face and shoulders. There is no body to this guy. And I could be wrong, but I think this opens at some point. Not sure if it's an Easter egg or if it just opens randomly when you're walking past it, but I guess when it does open, it gets rid of this model and spawns an actual zombie. And inside of here, we got this little room with some overturned tables and an extra back room that's very smoky, it seems. Nice little place for the zombies to spawn, but again, there's not a ton of modeling in there, even though, of course, it's very well seen from inside the map. There's actually a light inside of this window location. And continuing onward, we got another little area for the zombies to crawl through, and this is quite literally a crawl-through spawn location. That's quite interesting. They have a little area back here where they can spawn upright, and I imagine they have an animation where they quite literally crawl through the vents. There's also this space that's, I guess, technically out of bounds, although, of course, you can see it very well from inside the map. Kind of cool. We got a projector as well as some extra modeling, and I think maybe zombies spawn back here, but I don't really know. Oh my god, the two-headed zombie from Black Ops 6. And we got another window location here. This one very dark, but it does actually have a little bit of modeling this time, although albeit not very much at all. There's some sinks and some mirrors. There's also this bench here, which is quite literally just a piece of concrete cut to look like a bench. And finally, this leads on out through a staircase back to the courtyard, here where we've been before. We've covered these bloody rooms down below where the Pack-a-Punch is, all the way to all these buildings above. And I think that's it, guys. I think we've covered it all. There's probably some things we've missed, like this right here, actually. Another one of those jump-up window locations in the cemetery area, I suppose. It's kind of interesting. It has some pipes leading down into it, and the textures on the wall, well, they're pretty strange. Of course, without Fulbright, it's just dark down here, but with Fulbright, we got this shiny brick texture we can see. But other than that, I think we have covered the entirety of the final Reich. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton. Of course, make sure to subscribe so you can come back for more. I will be covering every single map from World War II Zombies in due time. Keep an eye out for the polls, because I'll be letting you guys decide which is the next map that we cover here in World War II Zombies. And if you want to watch more of my content, you can click one of the videos on the screen right now. But if not, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, and peace out.